12, because I remember looking out the window and I could see it starting.
And that was the beginning of the snowfall?
I believe so.
What was the weather out that night?
The weather that night, I think, was fine. It was cold, but it wasn't snowing yet.
I see. I want to move forward ahead. At some point that night, did you go to sleep?
Yes, I did.
Did you sleep through the night, Ms. Roberts?
Yes, I did.
Okay. At some point, did you wake up?
Yes, I did.
I want you to tell us what was the reason that you woke up.
I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from Karen Reed.
Were you expecting a call?
No, I was not.
Had you ever received a call at 5 in the morning from Ms. Reed before?
No.
Share with us what happened that morning. What did you hear?
Karen called, and the first thing she said was, Kerry, 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 John's dead. And then she hung up. And then...
When she said that, did you have a chance to have a conversation with her?
No, I did not.
Describe her demeanor when she said that.
She was yelling loud enough, my name, I think it was 3 times, it might have been 2. She was yelling loud enough that she woke my husband.
Your husband was sleeping next to you?
Yes, he was.
Was she loud, yelling, screaming?
Yes, she was very loud. She was screaming.
After she said, Kerry, 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 John's dead, did you know what she meant?
No.
And did you say this was around 5:15?
This was at 5. She called me at 5 on the dot.
Okay. After she hung up, what did you do?
I was half asleep still. I didn't know what was going on. So I started to get up, and I think I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know exactly when, because I was like, what? So my husband said, what was that? I said, I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on. That was Karen. And then I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know if she answered or if she called me back the next time I spoke to her.
After she called you again, did you have another discussion, or did you hear her say something else the second time you spoke to her?
Yes, the second time she said, I think something happened to John. I think he got hit by a plow. He didn't come home last night. Kaylee was home. He would never leave her by herself, and I was not supposed to stay at the house last night. So I think something happened to him.
Did she say anything about drinking?
Yes, she said, we drank so much, I don't remember anything from last night. And I said, okay, where are you now? She said, I'm driving. And I said, you need to go home. Where's Kaylee? And she said, at home. I said, you need to go home and be with Kaylee. She cannot handle this, thinking, her uncle's missing. I said, you're going to get a DUI. You need to go home.
Was there anything else in the conversation that she said to you at that time?
She said, I'm going to drive to your house. Would you drive my car? And I said, yes. So at that point, I started to get dressed. I turned on the automatic car starter so it would warm up. Told my husband, I don't know what's going on. John didn't come home. And so I think my husband tried to call him, and I tried to call him. And my husband said, you're not going anywhere. It's a blizzard. He's probably on somebody's couch. And I was like, I know, but she's really upset. I'm just going to go. She wants to come here. I'm going to drive her car. And then I went out to my car and sat and waited for her.
When you called John, did you get any response?
No, I did not.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did you make any other phone calls?
I did. When I was in the car, I thought to myself, well, she thinks he got hit by a plow. I'm going to call the police and see if there was any accidents or maybe something happened. They brought him in. And I spoke to the officer who said, no, nothing of that sort. I've been here all night. And then I called the Good Samaritan Hospital and Milton Hospital to see if they had anybody that was taken in an accident.
When you called the police to look for Mr. O'Keefe, did you call 911?
No, I called the non-emergency line.
Do you know if that call was recorded?
I believe so.
Okay. I'd like to introduce an exhibit.
Okay. Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Exhibit 9.
When you called the police, what was your level of worry at that point?
I wasn't super worried. I mean, he didn't come home, but they were out drinking, so I assumed, like my husband said, he's probably on somebody's couch.
The second call you had with Miss Reed, can you describe her demeanor in that second call?
She was frantic. She was frantic. I mean, she couldn't find John, so she was very worried.
How soft or loud was that phone call?
It wasn't as loud as the first one, but it wasn't a regular conversation.
With the court's permission, I'd like to play the exhibit of the call.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kerry. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. They were at waterfowl, and now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't take anybody outside the name of John O'Keefe, did you?
John O'Keefe?
Yeah, he's a Boston cop, and it would be on post, but...
No.
And he probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. I don't know, but...
Yeah, no, we didn't launch anybody else or anything like that. And where does he live?
He lives on Meadow. There the present.
He lives on Meadow, off Pleasant. Okay, and where's the wife home? You said your girlfriend?
With his girlfriend, yeah, they were out having drinks, and then she left and expected him to come home at some point, and he never did.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, my husband had been out with them earlier in the night, but then he obviously came home. And he has custody of his niece and nephew because their parents passed away.
Okay.
And so she's home with the niece and nephew, and they're old enough to be home. And so she's nervous because she never even called me.
Yeah.
So she's like, I feel like something happened. And I said, okay. Well, so call the area hospital and nobody happened. I personally think he someone probably picked him up and he passed out. I don't know.
Yeah, where?
I don't know.
Did he didn't drive last night?
No.
No. Okay. Again, it's more, it would be driven by you. She would have to, call in or come to the patient and talk to us. But I mean, as of right now, it's more, he just didn't come home last night. Is this common sometimes happen with him?
No, that's why. That's he didn't call his niece. That's kind of why she's more freaking out. So I figured I called the area hospital and got a call. She answered police just to make sure he didn't get picked up. But like I said, he's Boston police officer and knows about people. If anybody could pick him up,
Yeah.
please take it off.
Okay.
Again, we're going to have a blizzard party or something.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I was stuck here. But we didn't get any calls, anything like that. Nobody was arrested or anything like that.
Okay.
All righty.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, no problem. Good luck.
Okay,
See ya.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Were you in your car when you called the police station and the hospitals looking for John?
Yes, it was.
Do you know at that point whether anybody else had called the police station?
No, I don't know.
Do you know at that point if anybody else had called any hospitals?
I don't know.
How long did you wait in your driveway?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe like 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
What were the conditions like out that morning?
It was bad. It was in the middle of a blizzard.
When you were outside in your car in the driveway waiting, describe the lighting conditions for us.
It was still dark out. It was 5 o'clock in the morning and it was snowing, so it was not great.
How was the visibility?
Not great. It was coming down really fast at that point.
You said that night when you went to bed the snow just started. Had snow accumulated at that point?
No, I don't think so. It was just starting to stick.
I'm sorry, that was the night before, but at this point when you were in the driveway, had the snow accumulated?
Oh, yes.
Do you know how many inches it was?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Enough that the plows are out.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did she arrive at your house?
She did not.
What happened?
Again, I don't know if I called her or she called me, but eventually we connected on the phone and she said, I said, where are you? I'm waiting. And she said, I'm at Jen's house. And I said, Jen who? And she said, McCabe, she's going to drive my car. And I said, okay, well, listen, they don't want cars on the road because it's so bad. I'm already in my car. I'll come there to Jen's house, stay there, and we'll follow each other, and we'll go back and drop your car off. Did you look in the house for John? Could he just be in the house, passed out somewhere? And she said no, she hadn't looked in the house. So I said, okay, now I'm gonna come to Jen's, we're gonna take the car home, drop it off, we'll check around the house, and then I don't know what the next step at this point was. I just wanted to check the house.
At the time you directed that you were going to meet at Jen McCabe's house and then drive to John's house, was there any suggestion by the defendant where she wanted to go?
I didn't know where Jen's house was. I knew the street. I had dropping Kaylee off or picked her up a few times. So I said, stay on the phone with me so I don't know which house it is. And so when I got there, I pulled in the driveway, and there was some conversation about...
Can I back you up and just ask you a little bit about the drive there? I don't
Yep.
mean to interrupt. When you left your house, you talked a little bit about the weather conditions. How long did it take you to get from your home to Jen McCabe's?
Oh, it's quick. Probably 4 minutes.
What was the driving like?
It was not good driving. That's why I didn't want two cars on the road.
Did you have any difficulty driving through that storm?
No, I mean, it was treacherous. But I was in four-wheel drive. I have an SUV.
You mentioned you didn't know exactly where Jen McCabe lived. Had you been there to drop off John's niece before?
Yes, but I didn't know which house it was because when I picked her up before, she was either getting out of the car at the driveway or waiting at the end of the driveway. So I didn't know which house it was.
I think I interrupted you, but were you telling us that as you drove to Jen McCabe's house, you were on a Bluetooth, on an open conversation with her to help with directions?
Yes, Jen and Karen were in Karen's car, and I was on the phone essentially with both of them.
Do you know what type of vehicle the defendant was driving at that time?
A Lexus SUV.
As you drove over to Jen McCabe's home and you had some guidance finding it, did you hear any conversations in that open line with, or even any statements by the defendant?
I remember when I pulled in behind her car in Jen's driveway, and at some point Karen said, my taillight, and I looked, and Jen she must have had the brake done because you could see that there was missing taillight.
When you say missing taillight, was it merely cracked?
No, there was a piece missing.
Could you see that as you were parked right behind the defendant's SUV or Lexus?
She must have been applying the brakes because you could see it, but there was a lot of snow.
When you saw that the taillight had a missing piece, did you say anything?
No,
Did you think anything of it?
no.
How long were you parked behind the defendant's Lexus while it was parked in Miss McCabe's driveway?
Not long. We were just, I pulled in and then we stopped, and then the next plan, at some point in that conversation as well, or maybe on the ride, because now we're heading to John's house to drop a car off. I pulled out of the driveway, Jen pulled out, and I followed behind all the way to John's house. And at some point, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And I heard Jen say, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's.
Was anything else said about the broken taillight?
No.
You followed Miss McCabe?
Yes.
Where did you go?
To John's house.
Did you arrive?
Yes.
I want to ask you some questions about when you arrived and what you did next.
Okay.
When you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's home, you were in two separate cars. Who pulled into Mr. O'Keefe's driveway first?
Jen pulled Karen's car in first.
So Miss McCabe was driving the Lexus,
Correct.
and the defendant was in the passenger seat?
Yes.
After you both pulled in, tell us what happens next.
I wasn't sure if it was, at some point Karen showed us the taillight up close, but I didn't know if it was when we arrived or when we left. But we went into the house to look for John.
When the Lexus was parked by Miss McCabe in Mr. O'Keefe's driveway, was it facing the street or facing away?
Facing where the basketball hoop is, not facing the street.
I'd like to approach.
Okay.
Going to show you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, that's John's driveway. That's Karen's car on the left and John's car on the right.
Do you recognize both those cars?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize that photo as a fair depiction of his driveway?
Yes,
Do you recognize it as a fair depiction of the motor vehicles?
yes.
Now, when you went there that night and you pulled in behind Ms. McCabe and the defendant, is there any differences between how that area looked when you pulled in as opposed to that photo?
Well, it was the early hours of the morning, so it was dark out, and there was much more snow. And there was
Other than
snow
this-
coming down.
I'm so sorry. You want to finish?
Nope.
Other than the snow and the lighting, is there any other differences?
Nope.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
All right, there's no objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection. With the court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Okay.
And to help us understand, you see on the left is the house.
Yes,
There's a motor vehicle in the middle of the driveway, but it's the vehicle to the left.
yes.
And whose vehicle is that?
That's Karen's.
Is that where it was parked that night when you went into the house?
Yes,
And the motor vehicle to the right, you recognize that?
that's John's car, or SUV.
Thank you, you can take that down. I'm showing you a second photo.
Okay?
Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the back of Karen's car.
Does it look like a fair and accurate depiction of her car as it appeared that morning in the early morning hours to you?
Yes,
Do you notice anything that's distinguished in that photo?
the piece that's missing in the taillight.
Which one?
The right passenger rear.
Do you know when? I'm sorry. Do you know when this photo was actually taken?
I do not.
Although you don't know when it was taken, is that a similar depiction to your memory of how it appeared that morning at 5?
Yes,
Or a little after 5?
yes.
I move to introduce this exhibit.
Okay.
Objection. The court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Yes.
We could take that down, please. After you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's house, what was the plan to go inside? What were you looking to do?
To go inside and look and see if he was passed out somewhere. So we went in through the garage, and I started looking. I think Jen ran upstairs to Kaylee's bedroom, and I just started looking through the living room. Basement door was locked from the inside, so I knew he wasn't in the basement. And then I checked the other living room. He has a big house. Then I went to the top of the stairs to check his bedroom.
As you looked around, what was your mood?
What was my mood?
Yes, were you calm?
I mean, I was worried, so we would. At this point, Jen had already established that they went to her sister's.
Sustained.
Okay.
Jen had already.
Now,
Hold
let me ask the
on,
question-
Ms.
I'll ask
Roberts.
the question better. My apologies. How many rooms did you look through in John's house?
1, 2, 5 or 6.
Did you see Miss McCabe looking in rooms as well, searching?
She went upstairs when I was looking downstairs.
At some point as you were looking, did you see the defendant?
Yes,
Was she looking with you?
she was in John's room.
What was she doing?
She was just standing there when I came up to the top of the stairs.
Did she say anything?
No,
Did she do anything?
no,
Was she searching?
I don't know. She was in the room.
What happened next?
At some point, Jen earlier had said,
Well, let's not talk about what was said. Okay. Let's
Well,
just talk about
the plan
best
at
you
this
can,
point
your-
is to
your
go to
memory of what was
34
done.
Fairview.
Ms. Roberts, I know that I'm just going to ask you to wait for a question
Okay.
because we can only get one person at a time. So next question, Mr. Brennan.
Again, my apologies. And so as you're looking through the house, you don't find John. What happens next?
the plan was to go back to Jen's sister's house.
Who made that plan?
Karen wanted to go back there.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. How did that conversation come up, and share with the jury what was said?
And the car ride to Meadows, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And Jen said, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's. So then Karen said, we need to go back to your sister's. And I said, no, we're going to go to Meadows and we're going to drop the car and we're going to look there. Then we'll go there if we don't find him.
When you were at the house, Meadows, John O'Keefe's house, and you didn't find him, was there any further conversation about what the next steps would be?
I said, let's go. He's not here. But I didn't know where Jen's sister lived. So we got into the car. Jen was in the passenger seat. I was driving my car. Karen was in the back seat. And Jen was giving directions.
Did you begin your way towards Meadows?
Yes.
And it was Miss McCabe who was giving directions?
Yes.
As you began driving to head towards Meadows, in addition to trying to drive, were you doing anything like looking or searching?
Well, yeah. We were looking on both sides of the road. I was looking on both sides of the road in case he was walking home.
Did you see Miss McCabe searching?
Yes, she was looking out as well.
So describe a little detail about what you saw Miss McCabe doing.
She was looking out the window as we were driving. So was I, as I was driving.
And where was the defendant during that time?
She was in the back seat.
Was there any conversation, comments, statements?
Well, she would be in the back seat, and then she would be in between Jen and I, in the back seat, and then in between Jen and I. She was just very frantic.
Okay. Was she saying anything?
There was conversation on the way there.
Okay. Was she looking as well? Did you see her looking out the windows like you and Jen?
I don't know if she was because she was in the back seat.
Okay. As you drove to Meadows, what was the visibility? The same or better or worse?
No, it was poor.
Did you make your way towards Meadows?
I did.
As you finally got to Meadows, was the house on your left side, your side, or on the other side?
Are you talking about Fairview or Meadows?
I'm sorry, Fairview.
Okay. The Fairview house came up on the left-hand side.
Before you got to the house, is there a tree line between that house and the house before it?
Yes. There's a cluster of trees and bushes.
All right, take us back. I want to talk about that morning. As you're driving and approaching Fairview, tell us what you hear, what you see, what's happening.
Jen's giving directions, and it was really bad driving. I was white-knuckling because it was getting slippery. Karen wouldn't put on her seatbelt because she was in between us again the whole ride and then sitting back, but she was worried because we weren't finding John.
Were you having words?
Yes.
Tell us.
I said to Jen, where are we heading? And she said, my sister lives on Fairview. And I said, where is that? She said, off of Chapman. I said, oh, okay, near Spring Lane. At some point, Bella's mom came up.
Tell me what that means.
I didn't know who it was, but it was one of Kaylee's friends, Bella's mom. The directions. At some point, Karen was talking about Bella's mom to Jen, saying she never liked me. I didn't know who this woman was that they were talking about. But apparently, Bella's mom lived near where Jen's sister lived on Fairview.
Did you learn any more about the relevance of Bella's mom?
No. Oh, well, I think John had dated her.
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
So as you approached Fairview, tell us what happens.
As we approached Fairview at the house. You mean the house or the street?
Yes, the house.
The house. Jen said, my sister's house is right up here. And I said, okay. And as we approached the house, Karen from the back seat is now screaming, there he is, let me the F out of this car. And she's now kicking the back door to get out.
When you heard the defendant scream, there he is, and started kicking the car door, did you see anything?
I did not.
Did you see anybody?
I did not.
Did you look?
I looked.
Was there anything that impeded your ability to see far?
No. It was just snow.
How far could you see when she was yelling, there he is?
How far could I see?
Yes.
I mean, the visibility wasn't great.
Okay. Was she pointing or giving any direction?
No, she just said, there he is.
Okay. What happens next?
And then I unlocked the car. I looked over, I didn't see anything, and I unlocked it so she could get out of the back seat. I looked at Jen and I said, she's crazy. And then I turned around and watched, and she ran over to a mound of snow.
when she started running, before she got anywhere, did you see anything at that point?
I did not.
Were you looking?
I was looking. She said, there he is, so I'm looking around to see where he is.
And you could see nothing?
I did not.
Did you see her run around or directly?
She ran right over to the mound of snow.
Could you tell what the mound of snow was from the car?
Once she got to it, yes, it was. Once she got to it, you could tell it was a mound of snow that was the length of a body.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop you there, Mr. Brennan. I need to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please, regarding...